Good day, students. Advocate Bapusai Bonde High School Anavla has come up with a new video. Myself, Mrs. Naira Sheikh, your English 1 teacher, has brought this video for you. Our today's topic is The King of the Golden River, Part 2. We'll start with the new words now, students. First word is furnace. Furnace, furnace. Second word, delicately. Delicately, delicately. Third word, crucible. Crucible, crucible. Fourth word, enterprise. Enterprise, enterprise. Fifth word, melted. Melted, melted. Sixth word, astonished. Astonished, astonished. Seventh word, hesitatingly. Hesitatingly, hesitatingly. Eighth word, enchantment. Enchant, ment, enchantment. Ninth word, disappeared. Disappeared, disappeared. And our last word is stretched. Stretched, stretched. We'll go through the meanings now, students. First meaning is enterprise. Enterprise means activity or business. Second one, crucible. Crucible means a container in which something is heated to a high temperature. Third one, tilted. Tilted means moved into a position where one side is higher than the other. Fourth one, pray. Pray means please. Fifth one, dwarf. Dwarf means an imaginary creature that looks like a small man. Sixth one, enchantment. Enchantment means effect of magic. Seventh one, parched. Parched means very dry. And the last meaning for today, staff. Staff means a long and a thick stick. In the first part of the chapter, students, we had seen as to how Hans, Squats, and Gluck, all the three were known as the Black Brothers. Out of the three, two of them were very wicked and very ugly, while as Gluck was the opposite. He was of a very kind natured person, and he was also very helpful. He could not see anyone in pain. We have seen the deeds that he has done in the last chapter. Now, students, we'll move ahead towards the second part of the chapter. Southwest Wind was true to his word. He did not return to the treasure valley after that night. Neither did any other wind. So there was no rain. Nothing grew in the treasure valley anymore. The brothers made no profit. We had seen that the treasure valley was filled with life. There were fruits. There was a big orchard in the treasure valley. And because of the southwest wind being upset and moving off from the place that day, everything had turned upside down. Now there was no longer life into the treasure valley. Since there was no rains, no clouds would come there. And nothing grew in the treasure valley anymore. Because of that, the brothers made no profit. The wicked brothers then began to make money by selling gold. They melted in a furnace the gold articles they had. They mixed a lot of copper and sold the mix as a pure gold again. And they made the poor Gluck work in the furnace while they spent money on themselves. We've seen how wicked the brothers were in the past. Now, the second side of them has again been portrayed here. They not only wanted to hurt Gluck and use Gluck for their needs, but they never shared any profit along with Gluck. Soon, all the gold in the house was spent. Only one thing was left, a beautiful golden mug that belonged to Gluck. So, as we seen in the earlier part now, that everything that was of gold, everything they went on mixing and selling that gold for a higher price, the mixed gold. So now everything in the house that was there of gold, everything was sold off. Only one golden mug was left. And whose mug was that? Yes, it was Gluck's mug. Gluck's uncle had given it to him when he was a baby. Gluck used to drink both milk and water from it. A strange, weird face was delicately carved on the mug. Gluck was very fond of the mug. He did not want to part away with it. But his wicked brothers only laughed at him and threw the mug in the furnace. They had no value whatsoever for Gluck's sentiments, for his liking. They just wanted to use him. So the mug that was used of Gluck's, they just threw it knowing that Gluck was really liking that mug of his. In spite of that, they picked that mug up and they threw it into the furnace for it to melt. They asked Gluck to put the gold when the mug was melted and went out on some wicked enterprise. So they told Gluck, once this mug gets melted, remove out the gold and keep it separately. And they went out for their own work. Sadly, Gluck sat down to watch over the mug being melted. But strangely, after some time, he began to hear a voice singing from the furnace. He lifted the lid of the crucible, and what did he see? The face of his old bearded friend on top of the melted gold. So, moment they went off from there, Gluck was helpless. He was just sitting and looking at his own mug being melted. And strangely, after some time, he could hear some noise. And the noise was coming from the furnace. When he lifted up the crucible, that's the lid of the furnace, what did he see in that, students? Yes, he seen the face of the same old bearded friend of his on the top of the melted gold. Come, Gluck, my boy, said the voice from the crucible. Pour me out. I am too hot. Gluck was astonished. Astonished means he was surprised. But he took hold of the crucible and tilted it to put out the gold. Instead of the gold, a golden dwarf came out from the pot. So we see here that instead of the gold coming out from the pot, a golden dwarf had come out. His was the face carved on Gluck's mug. Pray, sir, said Gluck rather hesitatingly, where were you, my mug? So he was surprised that he put the mug into the furnace. And who came out of the furnace, students? Yes, it was the same old man who came out from the furnace that was carved onto his mug. So he was hesitating, he was scared. And he said, were you my mug? I am the king of what you call the Golden River, the golden dwarf told him. He added that another strong king had turned him into a mug by magic. So this person who was carved onto the mug, who was that person, students? Yes, he was the king of the Golden River, and another strong king used magic and made him into a mug. Gluck had freed him from that enchantment. The Golden Dwarf went on to say that he had seen how kind Gluck was and how wicked and cruel his brothers were. So the Golden Dwarf went on commenting as to how many times he's seen the wickedness of his brothers. So now, Gluck was told a secret by this Golden Dwarf. And what was the secret now, students? Let's see. If anyone poured 3 drops of the holy water into the river, where it started from, that is, on the mountain top. If someone goes onto the mountain top and puts holy water, how many drops, students? Only 3 drops. The river would turn to gold for that person. A person could try this only once. And if anyone put unholy water in the river, that person would be turned to a black stone. Saying so, the dwarf jumped back into the furnace and disappeared. So we seen here that the dwarf has given him a secret and told him that anyone who goes on top of the mountain top and pours holy water, 3 drops of it, into the river would turn into gold for that person. But if someone puts unholy water into that river, that person itself would turn into stone. Saying so, the Golden Dwarf once again jumped into the furnace and he disappeared. When Gluck told this to his brothers, they did not believe him at first and beat him. But Gluck stuck to his story. So at last they believed him and began to fight over who would have the first chance to go to the Golden River. Now, knowing the 2 brothers that they were very, very greedy, they had their own greedy motive behind every deed that they would do. So what happened first in the start, students? They refused to believe what Gluck said. But later, when Gluck did not move or did not change his statement, they began to believe him. And then they had a fight among themselves as to who would be the first person who would go to the Golden River. They fought so much. They fought so much that the police came to see what had happened. Hans ran away when the police came, but Squats was caught and put in prison. So they had a fight, the greedy brothers. Both the wicked brothers, Hans and Squats, had a fight among themselves, and the fight was so severe that the police had come to check what had happened. But Hans ran away from there. He managed to escape. Well, the police came, but Squats, he was caught and he was put into prison. Hans was happy that Squats was in prison. See, his own brother was in trouble. Squats was in prison, but still Hans was very happy with the thought. The very next morning, he went to the church, stole some holy water, and set off for the mountain. It was not an easy climb to the mountain. He was tired and thirsty. Soon, Hans thought he would drink some of the holy water himself. So now what did Hans do, students? He went and he stole, that means he robbed some holy water from the church, and he went straight to the mountain. Now to climb a mountain, it's not very easy. It takes a lot of time and lot of effort and a lot of energy also. So while he was climbing up, he was very tired and very thirsty. And soon he thought that he would also drink some of the holy water himself now. Just as Hans raised the flask to his lips, he saw a little puppy on the rock. The moment he took the bottle of water and put it towards his lips, he saw a small little puppy who was there on top of the rock. It stood as if it was dying of thirst. Hans only pushed the animal away with his foot, drank some water himself, and passed on. So, what did he do? He, instead of giving the puppy who was thirsty some little water to drink, he pushed him off with his foot and drank water himself, and he moved on from there. The climb now became more difficult. Hans felt thirsty again. It was going to drink some more water when he saw a little child on a rock ahead of him. So the second time, once again, the climb became more and more difficult for him. And the moment he was thirsty again and wanted to drink some more water, at that time it seems he seen a small little child who was on a rock sitting there, and the child was lifeless. He did not have life in him, and his lips were parched and it was burning. Ignoring the child, Hans drank some more water himself and passed on. Instead of giving that child a little water to drink, with which the child would feel better, instead of that, what did Hans do, students? Yes, he drank some more water and he moved on from there. The climb had now become very, very difficult. Somehow, Hans reached the top of the mountain from where the golden river sprang. A faint cry fell on his ears. He saw a weak old man on a rock. Water, the man said. Water, I'm dying. So again he reached a little on top. Now the climb has become very, very difficult, students. And once he reached on top, he's seen a mountain from where the golden river used to spring up. And a faint cry he could hear. He could hear someone crying. When he turned, he seen an old man is lying onto the rock and asking for water, saying that he is dying out of thirst. So please give him some water. Do you think Hans would have given him water, students? No, he didn't. I have no water for you, replied Hans. He jumped over the old man's body and ran to the river. The sun was about to set. They were shone golden in the light of the setting sun. Hans threw the flask of the holy water into the river. But alas, the river did not turn to gold. Instead, there was only a black stone where Hans stood. So, what happened in the end? Hans took that flask of water and he threw it into the river once he reached on top. But did it turn into the golden river, students? No. Instead, he himself turned into a black stone. When Squats returned from prison, he took some of Gluck's money and brought some holy water from the bad priest and set out for the golden river. While climbing the mountain, Squats saw the fair child dying of thirst and passed on without giving him any water. So once again, like Hans, even Squats did the same thing. He seen the child who was dying of thirst, but he didn't feel the need to give him any water to drink. Instead, he moved ahead. As he climbed a little higher, As he climbed a little higher, he saw his own brother Hans stretched on a rock, asking for water. But the wicked Squats only laughed aloud. and went on without giving him any water. Alas, when he cast the flask into the stream, he too turned to stone. So he got a chance to make a confession, to stop there and help his own brother at least. But what did Squatch do? He was so wicked that he left his brother on the rock itself, and he took the flask and pushed the water into the stream, the unholy water in the stream. And the result of it was that he too turned to stone. Gluck waited and waited for his brothers, but they did not return. At last, he decided to visit the Golden River himself. He went to a good priest, who willingly gave him some holy water. Gluck was young and small, and he too found the climb very difficult. So Gluck, being only 12 years old, see the love, the determination, and the kindness that Gluck had. He did not go onto the wrong path. Instead, he went to a good priest. He asked for some holy water, and the priest readily and willingly gave Gluck holy water. Now, Gluck, though he was small, he found the climb very, very difficult. After he had climbed for an hour or so, he became very thirsty. He was about to drink some water when, like his brothers, he saw an old man. The old man walked towards Gluck, leaning on a staff. Now, I told you in the past, students, what a staff means. A staff is a long and a thick stick. So, he seen the old man who came, holding the stick into his hand, asking for water. Gluck saw that the old man was pale, tired, and thirsty. So, he gave him the bottle of water. The old man drank up to nearly 2/3 of the water. Then he returned the bottle and wished Gluck luck. So the moment he seen the old man there, he offered the old man water because he seen that the old man's face had turned completely pale and he had become very weak. And also he was very thirsty. So what did Gluck do? He offered him water to drink from his water bottle. And this old man, he drank up to nearly 2/3 of the water that was there into the flask. And then later, he returned the bottle back again, wishing Gluck good luck. Gluck did not have any water for himself, but as he went on, his path became easier. So now Gluck did not drink any water from the flask because he was aware that there is very little water left into the flask now. And after he went a little ahead, he found the climb was becoming easier now. After climbing for a long time, when he became thirsty, he saw the small child. Gluck was sorry for him and gave him water. The child began to smile, got up and ran down the hill. So the second time, again when Gluck felt thirsty, he seen a small child who was sitting there and asking for water. Now, unlike his other brothers, who were so heartless that did not offer water to drink to that small little child, Gluck was so kind that he offered water to the child as well to drink. And then finally, the child got up from his place and ran down smiling from the hill. Now, only a few drops of water was left in the bottle. When Gluck came close to the mountain top, he was very thirsty himself. Just then, he saw a poor little pup who was dying of thirst. I must help it now, thought Gluck, otherwise it'll be too late. So Gluck was aware that if he took time now, not giving the pup, that is a puppy, water to drink, it could be that the puppy would even die out of thirst. So he poured the remaining drops into the dog's mouth. So the balance of the drops that were there in his flask, he offered the dog and he poured it into the dog's mouth. The dog sprang up. In his place stood the king of the Golden River. And the dog, he jumped up from his place, and instead of the dog now, it turned out to be the king of the Golden River who was in disguise of the dog standing there. He was very pleased with Gluck. The kind king put in Gluck's bottle some dewdrops of the petals of lily. Then he told Gluck to cast it into the leaping river. So now what did the king do? He took some dewdrops that he removed out of the petals of the lily, the flower, and he put it into the flask, and he told Gluck to put this water, this dewdrops that is put inside the flask now, pour it into the leaping river. Gluck did so. but the river did not turn to gold. However, it changed its course and began to flow through the treasure valley, making it rich and fertile once again. So, although Gluck did that, but the river did not turn to gold, students. What happened instead? The flow of water, which was going on to the other side of the river, now changed its direction and came towards the river. And once again, the soil turned fertile and there was greenery poured everywhere. Gluck lived in the valley, helping the poor and the needy. His barns were full of corn and he never lacked money. So his entire barns were filled with corn now. But Gluck never had the instance of lacking of money anytime. And this was thanks to his good deeds that he performed. So you must always remember, students, whenever you do something good to someone, God always pays you in return. So we must not lose hope, be kind and helpful in nature with one another. Thank you for watching. I would now request everyone to kindly subscribe to our channel to avail further notifications of our upcoming videos. Thank you and have a nice day.